What's going on, guys? Arekkz here. Welcome back to another video for Monster Hunter Rise, and in this one I want to talk weapons, more specifically new weapon moves. If you guys have seen the most recent trailer, you will of course have seen a few snippets of new weapon moves in this video, and admittedly a lot of them happen quite fast, but if you scroll back through the trailer and you take a look at the extended Monster Hunter developer diary, we get a few new weapon moves for the ways that these will be interacting with the Wirebug, the new kind of grapple style mechanic. And I want to kind of go over these because I spoke about them in passing in previous videos, but I really want to kind of drill down and take a look at exactly what this allows us to do, because this is a very exciting prospect. So if you guys do enjoy this, do you find this helpful, then a like would be super appreciated. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think about these moves? How do you think they're going to kind of work and play out and whatnot? What do you hope to see for maybe your favorite weapon? But let's start off with one of my favourite ones, and this is for the Charge Blade. So rather interestingly, obviously this is a brand new Charge Blade, brand new armor set from what looks like Tetranodon, but more importantly, we have a Charge Blade here, and you start in regular Sword and Shield mode. You then have the ability to throw out the Wirebug. You can of course see it comes from his shielded hand, and it seems like, much like say the Clutch Claw, and the way that you're able to use it with your weapon drawn, it appears you can do the same thing with this. So with your weapon drawn, you throw it out, and admittedly, in some kind of angles it looks like it grapples onto the monster. I think it grapples more so into the general vicinity onto thin air, so I don't know whether, if the monster moves, it's going to kind of take it with you. I get the impression it's more so grabbing to a point in the distance. But either way, weapons drawn, you throw forward the Wirebug, you pull towards it, and you can then see that as you get close, as you get to the final point, as you kind of reach your destination, so to speak, you can then seamlessly go into a morph. And you can then go from the Sword and Shield mode straight into Axe mode, and of course you then go into that spinning attack, and you then go into the rising attack. Had it not been flinched back, you would have got that nice uppercut right on the monster's chin, but unfortunately it didn't work out this time. However, more importantly, it's just the way in which it's kind of seamlessly working into your combat flow. The fact that you could quite literally be out, drawing your weapon, grappling towards something, or wirebugging towards something, and you can then just like swap into Axe mode. That looks very nice. We then jump over to the next one with the Greatsword. This, of course, is really, really cool to see. And this kind of goes to sort of show how you can be quite mobile in the sky. We've, of course, seen from some of the traversal videos that you can, have multiple grapple points kind of dart between different areas. So you can see that you can effectively just target up into the sky, up into nothingness. Not entirely sure how that'll work in gameplay, whether it's like manual targeting, whether it's kind of just like predetermined points. Either way, you can grapple upwards to get that elevation, and you can then dart backwards and then initiate a charge. Now, the other cool thing I want to talk about here, and this is a new sort of visual design, I actually really like it. I know some people might think it's maybe perhaps a little over the top, but you can see that weapons that have the ability to charge now have this very obvious red ring. It's quite in your face, it's basically impossible to miss, and you can see how that red ring pulsates. It kind of starts inside the hunter, gets progressively bigger, dissipates, you then get the next color, does the same thing, and you then get the final one. So this is very reminiscent of, aerial style greatsword charge attack, but paired with the fact that you've got the Wirebug to allow you to kind of dash around and dart around incredibly quickly. So this is definitely, if you're going to draw parallels, it does look quite a lot like aerial greatsword from, say, Generations, at least in the way you can kind of charge it. So that much I do like. Also, just to kind of like show you guys another sort of instance of this charge, we can see for the bow here, for example, you can dash forward and you can then go straight into a charge. We see that sort of red pulse first, followed by the orange pulse, and we of course then get to see how that looks with the bow. Rather interestingly, it also appears that the Dragon Piercer is going to be making an appearance in this game, because you can see that the character here goes to initiate what looks like the regular kind of animation for the Dragon Piercer. Admittedly does get knocked over, but by seeing that and by sort of seeing the dash, then there's definitely at least, I think what we can glean from this is there are some of the sort of world movesets for bow that are clearly making their way into Rise, which is also very exciting. If we then move over to the Insect Glaive, this one is quite cool. Again, we've got the standard sort of aerial mobility, the way you can kind of move seamlessly through the air, and you can then sort of bounce off. So again, that's kind of one of those sort of world movesets, because you know that if you kind of perform that move and you collide with the monster, it launches you back up again. However, you'll now notice that if you think about one of the new moves that was introduced in Iceborne, the ability with the Insect Glaive to just stab down on the monster, the fact that you've now got that tied to a Wirebug is almost even more brutal. You can, stab down the monster, but you're doing it with much greater force because you're literally grappling down, pulling yourself towards it. That is very, very nice. And I suppose that will be quite quick, because if it's one of those situations where the monster's trying to get away and you can quickly grapple down, maybe it's a way to almost ensure you can get the hit without it moving away. After that, we then have a clip from the switch axe. This is going to be pretty sort of standard behavior. I'm pretty sure that like most of the weapons are going to do this, but you can see the weapon begins sheathed. You then of course jump up, grapple into the sky, and you then just go into a regular draw attack. This, for all intents and purposes, for the switch axe, looks very similar to, you know, just a jumping draw attack. And of course, following that, they then morph into sword mode and then get a couple of nice hits off with that fire switch axe. Now, this next one here, I actually got quite a few messages from people saying, you know, is this a new weapon? And I completely see where people are coming from, because if you just look at it, you know, in a vacuum, then it's just like, all right, it's got a kind of pretty cool design to it. It's almost got like a scythe head to it. However, behavior-wise, the fact that it's got the shield, I'm pretty sure this is just a very stylized gun lance, or, I mean, it could be a lance as well, but I'm pretty sure it's leaning more towards sort of the gun lance side of things. And there's a couple of reasons I say that, one of them being the guard point that I'll speak about in a moment. Also, it's worth noting that historically, if ever Capcom reveal a brand new weapon, it is very prevalent in the trailer. It's not the sort of thing they would just put in there and be like, we're going to leave it in there and see if anybody notices. They're like, if they've got a new weapon, they want you to know about it. So I feel like if this was a brand new weapon, I mean, also, if it was going to be brand new, I feel like they would have gone and done something completely different. So yeah, anyway, that's one side. The more important thing here is the Wirebug functionality. We can see, of course, again from the shielded hand, throwing out a bug, and much like we did with the charge blade, same way that you can kind of throw it out into a point in the distance, you can then dash forward. But what I really want to highlight here is that you'll notice that initially during the throw, you have a guard point because the tail from the new monster comes and slams down, but you catch it as you're throwing that out. So, you know, in typical guard point fashion, if your shield is presented, you are able to block. So it's kind of interesting just to note that obviously that doesn't necessarily leave you too vulnerable. And then just the stance for this is incredibly cool. The way that you're holding the gun lance just back behind you in sort of a typical anime pose, and you then just dash forward, scrape it across the ground and slice through the monster, that is incredibly clean. But also what's worth noting here is the behavior, because, you know, the motion for this is very similar to what the charge blade did. Both of them are zipped to a point in the distance, but their behavior is very unique. So I feel like this is going to be something we'll be seeing in the game. All of the weapons will of course have some kind of Wirebug functionality, but the way in which they behave, the moves and kind of how they'll play out will all be drastically different, which will lend itself quite nicely to when I eventually do those weapon tutorials. And on that note, that brings us to the last main clip, which of course again is for the sword and shield. This one is really, really cool. This is one of the ones where if you didn't kind of catch it at the beginning, it definitely looks like something completely wild, because what you're basically doing is attaching the Wirebug silk to the end of your sword, and you're just spinning it around, because you can see at the very beginning you are indeed holding a sword and a shield, and you then just basically start spinning it around, which means it's great AoE damage. Kind of reminds me almost of the sort of spinning hunter art that you could just use to kind of get yourself out of danger. So yeah, seeing that in action, very, very nice. And of course, following on from that, we also got a little look at the dual blades, leaping up the monster and then performing the beginning of that familiar Beyblade move where you can basically run down the back of the monster. Obviously, this is not a very long monster. You're not kind of doing it down Kulturoth or Dalamadur, so it's not as prevalent, but we can again see that that is also in place. So for the time being, that's a breakdown of all the weapon moves we've seen showcased in the trailer and the kind of extended gameplay so far. That's kind of what we have to go on for the sort of interactions with the Wirebug. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you like these new interactions? Do you like how it's behaving with the Wirebug? Personally, it gets me super excited. It also means that, of course, once Rise comes out, we will once again have to make a series of weapon tutorials for you guys. And as we always do, we're going to make them even better than the last ones. So definitely look forward to those. But anyway, that's it for the time being. That's a wrap on the weapon moves video. I've got one more video coming your way later on today to talk a little bit more about the monsters, and we'll then continue talking about the game tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget, if you haven't already done so, you can join the Arekkz Gaming Discord. We've got an awesome community over there with so many different channels for you to chat loads of different topics and different games. I'm in there, the team's in there. If you guys want to chat with us, find people to play with, it's just in general a great place to be. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads.